What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Developing news this evening when it comes to the managerial future of Erik ten Hag at Manchester United, with some reports suggesting that Manchester United are already considering alternatives to the current Manchester United manager, whilst other outlets are suggesting there is no immediate threat that the Dutchman will lose his job as the boss at Old Trafford. But there is an acknowledgement that stuff has to get better, results have to improve, beginning against Fulham. So we're going to go through it this evening. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. It started all over again, I know. The cycle, just like the Lion King and Elton John, the circle of life, the circle of Manchester United, the cycle feels like it's repeating itself yet again when it comes to news coming out today suggesting that there is dressing room disharmony, there's dressing room unrest, there are rumours about Raphael Varane, there are, you name it, when it comes to Manchester United, the drama involved in that, and concerns about Erik ten Hag's methods and his strictness or whatever. That came out earlier today, of course, from Samuel Lucas, which Flex covered in his view. Be sure to check that out as well. And what we're going to go through this evening, as I mentioned, is kind of a myriad of different reporting that we're kind of seeing this evening, afternoon, morning, depending on where you are, which is an acknowledgement things have to get better, an acknowledgement things have to improve, a suggestion that Erik ten Hag is not under threat right now, but then others are suggesting that he's on thin ice and United are already considering alternatives as well. So let's get straight into it. Of course, it's going to be quite a sort of a news-heavy show, so apologies if I'm reading or if I'm checking social media because a lot's going on basically in the last few minutes or so. So let's start off. I think the best place to start off, let's start at the beginning. Let's do this in a chronological order when it comes to all of this. So as I mentioned, the first sort of real bit of news that came out today was from Jamie Jackson from The Guardian, talking about Erik ten Hag's immediate future. And the story from Jamie Jackson was that Erik ten Hag is set to continue as Manchester United's manager for Saturday's trip to Fulham, but he must oversee an upturn in results to keep his job. He continues by saying, although there is no desire among the executive at Manchester United to replace Erik ten Hag, who they have backed as the right man for the long term, but there is an acceptance after 8 defeats in the first 15 games of this season that he needs to turn around this run of form, starting against Fulham, to keep his position. As far as the logistics, if indeed United did make the decision to remove him as the Manchester United manager, that according to Jamie Jackson would cost around £15 million due to his current wages, etc., etc. Now, so that bit of news is suggesting that he's not under threat right now. He's not going to get sacked tomorrow, anything like that. There's an acknowledgement. Things have to improve. If they continue the way they are, if we continue to lose the majority of the football matches that we're playing, then ultimately their hand may be forced. That's kind of the suggestion there. So you sort of read that story and you say to yourself, well, I get that. I understand that. Ultimately, when you're the Manchester United manager, if you lose football matches and you have back-to-back defeats at home, 3-0, the pressure and the scrutiny and the speculation is going to come with that. I get that. I understand that. But I thought, it's just par for the course. I didn't today, for instance, when I woke up and I did Matchday Reloaded, I didn't think that we were going to be talking about alternatives or people that were going to be coming in to replace Erik ten Hag or anything like that. Well, the Times are going in a bit of a different direction. So the Times are reporting this evening that Manchester United are considering alternatives to Erik ten Hag, who is thought to be on, quote, thin ice at the club. A senior source at Manchester United said that 2 heavy defeats against Manchester City and Newcastle United had left Erik ten Hag at risk of being sacked. As far as said alternatives, of course, the title says replacements. These are the replacements reportedly that they're considering. Whether or not these are legitimate or just pulled out of thin air or just speculatory, I kind of lean to that. But the Times are reporting that Manchester United view Ruben Amorim, easy for me to say, Amorim, who is the manager of Sporting Lisbon, and Zinedine Zidane as potential replacements for Ten Hag, although the situation is highly complicated by the uncertainty over ownership. It says also, nobody at Manchester United expected this season to unravel as quickly as it has done and had hoped that Ten Hag represented stability after a decade of managerial turmoil since Alex Ferguson's retirement in 2013. As far as those alternatives, well, actually, no. Let's get to the Athletic, what they've written, then we can just circle back into all of it. Because I just want to get all the information out there straight away, then we can digest it, then we can try and break it down, provide some analysis of it and all that kind of stuff as well. So the Athletic are also suggesting the same thing realistically that Jamie Jackson was talking about today, suggesting that Ten Hag is safe, essentially. Ten Hag, Manchester United have no intentions of getting rid of Erik Ten Hag at this point. In fact, I can get the quote up in front of me right now. It says, quote, "There is no suggestion that Erik Ten Hag's position at Manchester United is under imminent threat." Once again, the suggestion is that, again, there is an acknowledgement things have to improve and things have to be turned around. But as of right now, Ten Hag's job is not an immediate threat or anything like that. He knows football is a results business, and a run of 8 defeats in 15 matches is not up to scratch. So once again, there is no suggestion from The Athletic anyway. The Athletic are reporting there is no suggestion that Ten Hag's position at Manchester United is under imminent threat, but he knows football is a results business and a run of 8 defeats in 15 matches is not up to scratch. Right, let's try and break all of this down. First of all, that report from the Times, when they're talking about replacements and they're talking about Manchester United considering alternatives or anything like that, do I buy it? Maybe there have been very, very informal discussions amongst themselves. Hey, if this continues on, if we were to make a change, who would we be looking at? The Zinedine Zidane thing always makes me laugh, because I remember last time when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got sacked, and there was the talk of, they want to bring in Zinedine Zidane. That's what they want to do. Zidane is not going to be the Manchester United manager. Certainly not the next one. I don't think he'll ever manage the club, okay? Zinedine Zidane, from my assumption anyway, has a mindset of, I will only manage a club that's called Real Madrid. My other managerial job will be the French national team job. In fact, most people expected him to become the French national team manager after the World Cup last year. Deschamps stayed on. Maybe he'll become the manager after the Euros or maybe into the World Cup or anything like that. Zidane, why would Zidane bother coming to Manchester United? Why? And this is the thing too, with any manager, if it was to be post Erik Ten Hag, why would anyone come to Manchester United? I know it's still Man United at the end of the day, but look whose reputation we have muddied and just thrown into, disrepair and taken massive body blows on. Look at the names: Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho. Yeah, Erik Ten Hag should be the latest one as well. What, do they think it's going to be any different, regardless of who it comes in or anything like that? So, as far as Zinedine Zidane, that's when I just go, nonsense, absolute nonsense. I think, to be honest, when it comes to my stance on the manager anyway, and what I think Manchester United should do, I said the same thing this morning. I don't think we should sack Erik Ten Hag. I think we should stick with the manager. You know why? Because we've done this. We've done this a million times at Manchester United in the past decade, where we bring a manager in. Some cases, David Moyes just didn't work out from the get-go. But in other names, they come in, they have a decent first season. Maybe they win something, maybe they don't. In the case of Jose, they do. In the case of Louis van Gaal, in the second season, they do. And we get all excited. It then goes to shit. The dressing room becomes toxic. The players are upset with the training methods. The players are upset with the manager and the attitude. He's too strict. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I don't like this person. He fell out with my friend, so I don't like him anymore. All this kind of stuff. And the board, they panic and they get scared because they see United in the league and they see money and they go, we're not going to be in Europe next season. Oh my God, let's get rid of him. It can't. These players are good. They're international players. So no, get rid of the manager and bring someone back in. And realistically, we have seen that any manager, and we've had some good ones. We've had some good coaches during the last. Don't take this sort of decade of failure to point to the fact we haven't had good managers, right? Because we have. We have. Any manager that comes in will not succeed in the long term. Now, immediately, if Erik Ten Hag was to get sacked and we brought in an interim or we brought in a permanent replacement, maybe this season it might turn out all right. Maybe we get in the top 4 and we go, I turned it around. See, it was just Ten Hag and it was just toxic and all this kind of stuff. And see, it was just, it soured. We didn't think it was going to sour, but that's what happened. In 18 months' time, or maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years or something like that, because that's been the sort of the time frame for all of the managers post Sir Alex, we will be in the exact same situation. I will be here on this stream Maybe with a little bit more grey in my hair. Maybe by that point I can actually grow a full beard. Maybe I've actually hit puberty by that point. But I'll be having the same conversation with you going, United considering alternatives, and we did well last season, but he didn't get his players that he was looking for. Our recruitment's all shoddy and all this kind of stuff. It's the same. Like, it is the same. And don't get me wrong. And I've been critical of Ten Hag in recent weeks, and justifiably so, I think. Some of the decisions that he's making are crazy. Some of the things he's saying are nuts. Some of the decisions he's making are the definition of insanity, where he's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Picking the same players over and over again, and expecting different results. But at the same time, we are doing the same thing, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, and expecting a different outcome. This time, this will be the manager. This time, this is the problem. This one player, this is the problem right now. And it's not ultimately going to get any better until the current owners of the club no longer in control of the club and no longer have anything to do with the club. So, as far as Erik ten Hag's future, I myself I'm not as fast as I've seen some other people to say, get rid of him, sack him now, he doesn't know what he's doing. I sympathise for him. I feel bad for him because I watched a man last night on the touchline and he looked so isolated in comparison to the group of players. He reminded me of Jose in his last season, where you had the manager here and the players all the way over there. And this distance between them felt vast. It felt like the Grand Canyon. There was no unity. There was no bond between the players and the manager or anything like that. And to the point where he did pick different players last night and the outcome was exactly the same. Poor, pathetic, lethargic, nothingness, toothless. And now you hear these, other rumours about people maybe being upset or people having concerns about directions or people having concerns about training sessions and what have you. And again, we could get rid of him and we could bring in someone else, but ultimately the outcome will be the same. It is like banging your head against the wall. And I know that people will want immediacy. They want the immediate relief. Because what are we going to say, right? If a new manager comes in, if we sack Erik ten Hag and a new manager comes in and we get new manager bounce and everyone's happy again, and we have those interviews where players come out and say, well, I feel really bad for Erik. We let him down when it came to our results, but we just got to make the most of it now, and we've got to do what we've got to do this season and fight back and really, justify these fans' support of us. And then, like I said, in 12 months' time, 18 months' time, we will end up in the same position. We will. And at some point, Manchester United has to draw a line in the sand and send a message to some of these players that if push comes to shove, we're not going to pick you over the manager. It's not going to happen. And my feeling is, though, as I mentioned this morning, is that I do feel like we're in the end game at the moment. I do. I do feel like we're in the end game because this we've seen this before. The cycle is the same. The toxicity will continue. Then it will be justified and spun that it's actually the manager and his coaching staff. It's his attitudes that the problem, not the players. They're innocent in all this. It's definitely not the players that are the problem, right? It's definitely not their attitude, their mentality that's the problem, despite the fact they've let down several other managers. And that core group of players as well are still there. As Roy Keane says, leopard don't change its spots. It's the same. It's the same every single time. And again, I know that people have made their mind up on Erik ten Hag already. I know they have. I know they might have done it last night or weeks ago or anything like that. But for me, I just look at it and say, what are we doing? Are we going to do the same thing again? And then we'll be having these same conversations too in 18 months' time when we say, let's say, I don't know who it would be. Let's say it's, Roberto De Zerbi. The problem is De Zerbi's just got all of these players from all of these different times at Manchester United, from Louis van Gaal, from Jose Mourinho, from Erik ten Hag time. He's got an Erik ten Hag squad. That's the problem with this. That's the problem with all of this. It's so short-termism, and that's what's got us into this situation in the first place. And we want to do it all again. We want to blow it up immediately and get Zidane in. And as I mentioned, do we think Zinedine Zidane's going to come in and it's going to be massively different at Manchester United? Honestly, is that what we really think? Zinedine Zidane, I wouldn't even pick up the phone. I'd put him on blocked. De Zerbi as well. Great upcoming coach, progressive football, got principles of play. I don't doubt it at all. And maybe he would come in, and maybe immediately we might get a bit better. But let's see him last the summer transfer window as well. Let's see him last the summer transfer window when, targets don't come through, or he wants players, they don't happen. He wants players to leave, they don't happen. The honeymoon period ends, and he falls out with a couple of players because Roberto De Zerbi will. He's already done it at Brighton. And then suddenly the players start going again. I don't like how he talked to my friend. I don't like how he talked to my friend about that. The way he forced that guy out the club. No, I'm not having it. He can go, not me. And then when we'll have the same conversation, what? Then the fans will be like, it's got too toxic. He can't talk. Get De Zerbi up. Bring Zidane back in. Bring Zidane back in once again. He'll fix this. He'll sort it all out. It's the same. And I feel like I'm going crazy. I feel like I'm going mad with it all. And that's not to say the football doesn't need to improve. It does. It's shit. It's terrible to watch. I've been saying it's terrible to watch since February, March, something like that. Honestly. That's why none of this is that much of a surprise as well. And I don't subscribe to a lot of the excuses that some people are pointing out. Someone said this morning, when we get Lisandro Martinez back, it'll be much better. We get better players back, of course, we'll play better, but the systemic issues are never going to be resolved. That might be a defeatist mindset, but until the above's figured out, because again, the same players, they'll buy into a new manager for 6 months, maybe sometimes less than that, but then sort of 12 months in, they're like, I don't know, they're like a womanizer. That we're 12 months into a relationship, and they're like, I'm sorry, it's not working out. That's what they're like. Every time. Let's get to the super chats here. Nem Green says, we have too many squad players. We need to get rid of these dense average players and get Ten Hag what he needs to abandon Ten Hag ball. He needs to get players that can play his football or die on your sword. And this is the thing too. And I mentioned this on the Full View on Monday, I think it was. He is not beyond reproach as well. I think Erik ten Hag this season, whilst I sympathise with him, because I look at those players and just go, I cannot believe you're doing it. Well, I can believe you're doing this again, but here we are. He's not beyond reproach because he's made some terrible decisions from a recruitment point of view as well, and insisting on picking certain players and playing favourites and in-game tactics sometimes and shoehorning players into the side. He's made some bad calls. And then he's backed it up by saying some crazy stuff in the press conferences that doesn't make him look any good. I think a lot of people, their breaking point with him was that Ajax quote. Because I think then people kind of threw their hands up a little bit and said, well, then why are you here? Because I think most people, through some bad performances and through some of the performances this season, had kind of been clutching on to the light at the end of the tunnel, which was one day we'll get to that Ajax style. One day we'll get to that point. Maybe it's because of the injuries. Maybe it's because of, he hasn't got the exact players that he wants. Maybe it's because of first targets. Maybe it's because some of these players aren't good enough and all this kind of stuff. But we'll get there one day. And I think that when that quote came out of him saying, we'll never get there. I will never play that style of football or never play that football. And then, again, people interpret it the way they want to interpret it. But that, I think, was a breaking point for a lot of people because I think people then looked at it and said, then why are you here? Because that's why I thought we got you. And I agree with that. I thought that's why we got Erik ten Hag because we saw what that Ajax team was doing, how they were playing. And we said, we want some of that. as I said, we definitely didn't look at Ajax and what they were doing in the Eredivisie, and in particular in the Champions League, and said we want none of that. We just want the coach. No, he said we want that. That's what everyone does. It's even with Arteta going into Arsenal, they looked at City and they said, we understand we're not getting Pep Guardiola. We understand we're not getting that. But if he's Pep's assistant, surely he's going to be pretty close to having those same ideals and principles and philosophy. We want a bit of that. Yes, please. Let's go with that. Helps that he was also the captain of Arsenal in the past. But that's what people do when they recruit managers, right? They look at the way they play or their teams play and they say, we want that. That's why people want Roberto De Zerbi right now, because they see the way Brighton play and they said, yes, we want that style of football. So when he said that, I think a lot of people did sort of go, wow, is that, if that's what he's saying, then that's not good. Levi says, how can any club justify sacking a manager that has the highest win percentage and could be the fastest United manager to 50 wins next game? This is also the thing when it comes to those statistics as well, isn't it? Is that people will point to those kind of statistics. People will point to Erik ten Hag winning the first trophy that United have won in 6 years. They'll point to the fact that he finished third and got to an FA Cup final. They'll point to he was the fastest manager to reach 20 victories. He could be the fastest manager to reach 50 victories. But they'll also then point to some of the records that have been shattered this season when it comes to, the most games lost at home, like in the Premier League season, the first few games of the Premier League season. I mean, there is a ton. If it was like every day, there's a new record. And they date back to like the 1970s or 1980s as well. Goals conceded, like back-to-back 3-0 home defeats, or wasn't it? We've led at home for 24 minutes this season. I think it's something like that, right? So I think that's the thing with statistics. And I always say this. Statistics, they're great. They can point you in a certain direction, but statistics can be manipulated to really make any point you want to, because there'll always be a stat that will back up what you want to say. Even if it's the wildest, most crazy opinion you can think of, there'll be a stat out there that can back it up, at least partially. So there'll be people that will point to, yes, these are the victories, these are the trophies, the win percentage, and what have you. And then there'll be others and they say, hey, some of these records aren't great this season either. So you've got this discourse now, haven't you? You've got this discussion. There are people that have, whether it was last night or whether it was City or maybe it's a bit earlier, they in their mind have decided that no, this guy. I understand that the structure at United is broken. I understand it's the players' fault, but there surely could be someone that could be getting a better tune out of these players. And I think, in fairness, I think that is a valid argument that I think that people are pointing out, saying that we get it. The current structure, the 25%, the acquisition, that is a mess. United is a mess. The facilities are awful. The stadium leaks. The training grounds got the same equipment than Ronaldo when he showed up as a teenager. But it's not as if we don't have international players out on the pitch. It's what I said last night too. I think that's kind of been sort of skirted over a little bit, realistically. That was Newcastle's C team. They had like a centre-back pair, and I don't think they'd ever played together before. They hadn't barely kicked a ball in a year. They made 9 changes from their team at the weekend. And it's not as if they've got better strength and depth than us. I know we've got a lot of injuries, but still, you look at our team that we put out on paper. You should look at that. Go, they should easily beat that team, but they can't. So I think some people do look at Ten Hag and say, but he's still. I sympathise with him and I get it, but he's still got to get. He's got to get a better tune out of those players, which is true. It is true. It's still not acceptable to lose at home to Crystal Palace. It's still not acceptable to be scraping victories when we're playing terribly against. I mean, our best performance this season was in the Carabao Cup in the previous round. I can't recall the last time in the Premier League. Certainly not this season, where we've come out of a game and gone, we absolutely deserve to win that. We were the better team. Every game this season we've been poor. And again, I think that people will point to that and say he should be getting a better tune out of those players. And look, I think that is true. But I still say, as I mentioned, I don't see, honestly, the benefit in the long term of sacking this manager, because I just see us sitting here in 18 months' time having the same conversation, and it could be perceived as a quick fix. And there's no quick fixes left at Manchester United. We've been doing patchwork on a broken down machine for a decade, maybe longer than that, to be honest. Even prior to Sir Alex, when you look at, stadiums and training grounds and what have you. We've been doing patchwork for so long that the whole machine is completely broken down. It's just basically somehow chugging along. I don't know how it's passing MOT. It's probably not, right? They're probably doing backhanders. There you go. Pass MOT. Great. Chugging along, patchwork. But eventually the whole thing's going to blow up, and then you can't even use it anymore, and you can't do nothing with it. And I feel like, again, getting rid of the manager would just be the same situation. It'd be the same situation. 12 months' time, 18 months' time, maybe even less than that. Maybe, and depending on what their plan would be, it might even be writing off the season anyway. Because any good manager worth their salt doesn't really want to move midway through the season. We saw that last time when we got rid of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. There was no contingency plan. There was no plan to bring in. They maybe put out some feelers to people like, remember at the time, it was Poch or Ten Hag. Poch was at PSG, Ten Hag was at Ajax, and it both was like, yeah, we'll come, but at the end of the season. So you get into interim manager territory again. And then you start writing off the season. And you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If an interim manager comes in, they do well, then it's, actually, maybe we go with this guy, the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer principle. Maybe we go with this guy, even though it wasn't the long-term plan. And then 12 months into that, we go, we shouldn't have gone with the interim. We should have focused on the long term. And if it doesn't go well, we go, it doesn't matter. The season's written off anyway. We find ourselves in the same situation, the same patterns of behavior, time and time again, constantly. Another super chat here, or a couple actually. Benji says 15 million to get rid of Erik ten Hag, then more money for the next manager. Well, this is part of the conversation too, is can Man United even afford to get rid of Erik ten Hag if they wanted to? 15 million pounds, we couldn't get Sofian Amrabat. We had to get him in on loan. We got Johnny Evans back in because we couldn't afford a captain. So, what financially would be the contingency plan for that? Realistically, and that probably is a conversation they're having too. You probably have those conversations with the Glazers and with Ineos. Hey, who's footing that bill? Who's paying the 15 million to Eric? Are we figuring that out? They're still paying off transfers that they did like 5 years ago or something like that. They're paying off transfers. Remember, I don't know if this is sorted now. I think the final Lukaku payment was done or something like that. We had a situation where we were paying fees to clubs for Romelu Lukaku, but at the same time we were receiving them for Romelu Lukaku at the same time, and it was like, what? And he wasn't even at the club anymore. So we're still paying off deals from years ago. And then we got an extra 50. Have we got room on the credit? Because that's what it's about as well. We bought our players on credit. We got room on the credit for Eric. What would we do with that? So then that brings into the fact, could we even afford to sack him? Could we afford to bring in another manager? Let's face it, a decent manager, he ain't going to be cheap. He's not going to be cheap to bring in. So is the interim come from internally? What happens then? Or do we get Steve McLaren at the wheel for the rest of the season until, I don't know, someone else decides to come in? These are factors too. The Manchester says stats are like a bikini. They never show everything. I mean, speak for yourself, Manchester. Dwight York, imagine, says our poor club structure isn't going to allow us to have a successful sacking of a manager and bring in someone who's successful as we'd like. Our cycle. M. Sati says Erik ten Hag's biggest mistake is thinking we are ready to be offensive. McTominay, Onana, and preferring Dalot to Wan-Bissaka because of the offense. We should defend and / counter-attack. Well, I think he wants us to be a transitional team. He wants us to be one of the best teams on the break. Ironically enough, last night, we're the worst team at defending on the break because we just lose the ball and then concede. I mean, look at Newcastle's goals. Weren't they all like in transition last night? Lose the ball, run through the pitch, goal. Every single time. Insider United as well. True Insider says Ten Hag is not the issue here, which again I think that's a lot of people's perception and thoughts involved in all of this, isn't it? Is that it's not it's the same failings as always. You know, it's the players, it's big egos, it's the ownership, it's the lack of structure. That's all failed the manager. And I must stress this, and the fact that you have to keep stressing it over and over again. I apologize if I repeat myself. That's not to say that Erik ten Hag is completely innocent this season, because he's not. Like, he is not. You don't lose 8 out of 15 games. It's nothing to do with the manager. Of course it is. He picks the team, and and we know his influence on recruitment. We know those reports about his agent, and he said it himself in a press conference. I have a veto over the players. So of course he's not innocent in this whole situation. But then you have to look at the bigger picture and say, what would it genuinely do for United if indeed we sacked him at this point? Would it be, short-term gain for long-term pain? Is that what we would do? Is that the territory we'd be at once again? Maybe it would be. I don't know. RC says, hearing about it's the same players down tooling, Mount, Anthony, Onana, Amrabat on the pitch, all rubbish. Are they also trying to get Erik ten Hag out? And am I caught up with the super chats here as well? I think I am. Let me just double check here. Indeed, I am. Be sure to smash a like on the like button, by the way, guys. We've got nearly 1,000 people watching. How many likes are we currently on at the moment? 137. So if you haven't already clicked the like button, and be sure to subscribe to bottom right hand corner. Obviously, if there's more breaking news, I'll let you know. Let's see, because I was talking to Flex before I went live, and I said I'd call him during the show. He's traveling at the moment, hence why I'm solo. Let's see if we get Flex on the phone, see what he says. Be interesting. Will it work? Too many rings, isn't it? Too many rings. Disgrace. Do you know what the thing is as well? I said to him, I'll call you during the show. And he went, yeah, cool. I'll call. I can't, because I'm not going to be back to this certain time, because he's driving. And then don't pick up. I think maybe he's cheating on the diet. Yeah, I'm gonna throw my own salacious rumors. Maybe he's at a drive-through. Yeah, maybe he's McDonald's drive-through. Broken the diet. Manchester United have, caused him to eat. Perhaps, maybe that's the part of it. Maybe that's the part. M Sati says he deserves this season next, even if we lose top 4. Let's see his. Shall I try KG? I'll try KG, because he genuinely, unless he's live on his own channel, because he might actually be live. If he is live, then I won't call him. He's not. I'll call KG. He could be anywhere. He certainly won't have heard the news or anything like this. Certainly at all. Let's try. That's good. That didn't work. What was that noise? What? I pressed it, and it was like, oh, wow. Just like Manchester United, silence from my colleagues. Absolutely disgraceful. Not good enough. Or is it? But it's not KG's birthday today. It's tomorrow, isn't it? Unless it is today, then I should say happy birthday to KG. Birthday's tomorrow. Okay. I know my friends. KG didn't say happy birthday to me, by the way, this year. Oh, he might be traveling today. That's a good point. Because he's away for his birthday this weekend. Yeah, that is true. Damn it. That is true. Well, There you go. There you go. If you are just joining us, by the way, so the news is that Erik ten Hag is not in immediate threat, according to Jamie Jackson from The Guardian. He's not an immediate threat of losing his job. However, if results do not improve, he could be in a bit of trouble. There is no desire among the executive at Manchester United to replace Erik ten Hag, who they have backed as the right man for the long term, but there is an acceptance after 8 defeats in the first 15 games of the season that he needs to turn around his run of form, starting against Fulham, to keep his position. Then the Times started talking about alternatives and stuff like that. Actually, this is quite an interesting one. When it comes to this and Ten Hag and these games and the results that he needs to have turned around, starting with a win against Fulham at the weekend, how do we feel about that game? Do we feel like he will turn it around this weekend in terms of getting a result against Fulham? Honestly, because I kind of go, could we? I mean, it's away. I know we've not been playing well, all that kind of stuff. I could see us scraping through that game, honestly. I could see us scraping through that game, getting a result and saying, okay, we weren't great, but we could get a result there. For me, what I genuinely do feel like could be the sort of death knell for Erik ten Hag, I think is actually Copenhagen away, honestly. Because you think about what is riding on that game. You think about what is riding on that game in terms of when we beat Copenhagen at home in the Champions League, and Maguire scored, and then Onana made the big save, and we were all celebrating and we were going crazy afterwards. It's great, and it was a great moment. You should never not celebrate those moments, even if you are in the mud. So I don't begrudge the celebrations, but I remember saying after the game, you have to very quickly remember that if we lose our next game in the Champions League, it means nothing, realistically. I mean, if we lose against Copenhagen away, we're out. We're essentially out. I think I'm not sure if mathematically we would be, because we got 3 points. If we beat Galatasaray and Bayern, we'd be on 9. I don't know if 9's enough to get us through. Usually it's 10. So, but the point being is, my feeling is that if we lost that game against Copenhagen, that might be the last one for him, because it would be a case of Manchester United. What did they? When it's looking unlikely that their team's going to qualify for Europe or be knocked out of Europe, then they go, maybe now's the time to make the change. Also, maybe it's a case of, how many games have we got coming up before the international break? We've got Fulham, Copenhagen, and Luton, isn't it? Right? I think that's the games. That's the 3 games, and maybe the assumption is, I mean, would you put a points total on that as to what he needs to get to protect himself? Are we saying he has to get 9 points out of that too? Is that what we're saying too? I don't know. Pig Riser says, your maths suck! Newcastle once lost their first 3 games and still qualified from a Champions League group. It's okay. I'm just saying that 9 might not be enough. 9 points might not be enough. And also, if we lose to Copenhagen away, are we then saying it's fine, we'll beat Galatasaray away as well? And then beat Bayern Munich at home? Because these 2 are meant to be the games that are like the guaranteed ones that we pick up 6 points in as well. So, I mean, call me crazy, 9 points, you get through. If a team gets through a Champions League group with 9 points, then they go, that's lucky. That's fortunate to get through, And if we don't, and I think the general mindset is that if we don't beat Copenhagen away, then are we going to be naive enough to think that we're going to beat Galatasaray away as well, and then beat Bayern at home? We might be fortunate by the time we play Bayern that they're through and they maybe don't take it seriously. I don't know. But again, that's the game that I look at and say, if something catastrophic happens in that one, that might be it. Frankly, that's me skipping over the game at the weekend with Fulham, and it's not as if they're a bad side. I know they lost, obviously, big player Mitrovic this season, but they've still been good, And then what happens? Do we then have a situation whereby we go into... Because let's face it too, if we lose at Fulham, are we then going into a crucial and critical Champions League game with, a lame duck manager, someone that's a dead man walking? Is that what we're going into as well? So that's when we're getting into this sort of this weird stage at this point. where I just say that we should stick with the manager we've got and send a message to the players. But unfortunately, I just think Manchester United have showed in the past that when this decision is there to be made, they always make the same decision. They go for quick, short-term fixes. But as far as what these alternatives would be, Zidane, I think that it's literally forget it. Forget it. They're saying, the Sporting Lisbon manager, I don't even know. You have to look at contracts and stuff like that as well, in terms of buyout packages, if you were really going to look at that too. And then also the compensation. I mean, you could be realistically looking at, if they're saying, get rid of Erik ten Hag, right? If they're saying, get rid of Erik ten Hag, and it costs you 15 million, potentially, depending on what manager you're going for, if he's at a club, that could still cost you 5 million, 10, something like that. Do Man United have that amount of money to spend? Probably not. Flex, you're live on your own channel.
Every time I call in, it's you or KJ, whatever. You're live on your own channel.
You're live on your own channel, yes. What are your thoughts on all of these news? You're driving, you're thinking, you're pondering. Sometimes it's nice, night's getting shorter, or longer rather, getting darker. So you're driving in the darkness, pondering about Manchester United.
Pissing down rain. All I'm seeing is American convoys. I've seen Camilla Harris's car, and all of these convoys going up to Milton Keynes or Bletchley, wherever they're going to, stuck behind all of them. But big up any Americans in the chat.
Yeah.
Oh,
and what do you make? What do you make of all of this? There's sort of differing reports. There's some that are saying, look, his job's not an immediate threat, Erik ten Hag, but there's an acknowledgement. Results have to turn around fairly quickly, otherwise it will be an immediate threat. Then you've got the Times that are saying, wow, Erik ten Hag's on thin ice, and United are already considering alternatives. What are your thoughts?
He's on thin ice, man. Like he is. The Athletic seems, that report, in my opinion, seems like they have seen the report from the Times, and then they've obviously gone and seek word from the club via briefing or to get an update. And the words and the wording of that, in terms of the backing of Erik in that, seem very much like what the club would say. I say that from experience, about some of the things that they say when you ask certain questions. So that to me is the club putting out there that, we need to calm it in public. We can't, if the Times ring us or someone rings us, we can't say, yeah, that's true. That article in the Times is true, to be fair. They have to word things in a very safe way. But as we know, that happened with Ollie. Is that the same thing?
Well, it's the dreaded vote of confidence, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. When they do that, your job's safe, you're okay, everything's fine, but there is an acceptance that results haven't, that is proper. I don't want to just, sometimes we use the word PR too flippantly, but that actually is PR. That's their job, to have that line out there to quash the heat and to try and take the pressure off Erik ten Hag and the microscope off Man United. But we can see what's happening, and we can see where it's going to lead. Now, I know it's gonna be different in the chat. It's gonna be different in the community, in the whole worldwide fan base around the world, as to what should happen, and should Erik ten Hag be sacked now, or if he loses the next two, should he be sacked? It's going to be polarizing. It was polarizing even under Ollie when it got really, really bad.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be fans who disagree with each other. But one thing I am seeing is that he can't lose many games. He can't lose too many more games in this period.
Yeah. Or when they say, look, immediate games and all that kind of stuff, I look at it as an international break. Oh, I was on. You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Yeah, carry on.
I said you got 3 games left for international break. I think what they're realistically saying is you need to win, if not all of them, at least get 6 points, 7 points, something like that. Because realistically, even if he wins one of them, ain't enough. It's not enough involved in that.
Yeah.
One of them considering one's the Champions League, and that might be a European future done. Because I mentioned this too. Let's say hypothetically we lose against Fulham, then do we go into that Champions League game knowing that actually we might have a bit of a lame duck manager here that actually is even going to be around? And this is one of our most important games of the season, realistically too.
Exactly.
Like,
and that's the thing. You can't lose too many more in this manner as well, because we know what it's like when a team gets sacked, when a manager gets sacked, or a team down tools or the beginning of the end. What happens is that, like you said, you get the last minute wins that aren't sustainable, then you get a few losses, but then the manner of the performances and the manner of the losses are really dramatic. They're really bad, and they're by big margins. You know. So when Ollie says in that interview that he done, he goes, "I knew they weren't playing for me at Watford when we were, I don't know, what was it, 2-0 down or something like that?
Yeah.
Or 3-0. He goes, I knew they weren't playing for me and it was over." That's it feels like we're kind of at the beginning of that bit. Because I remember in that period, like you said, we had comeback wins against like Atalanta and managed to get out of jail, and a few games at home last minute.
Villarreal.
And then there was like Villarreal, and then there was an absolute hammering at I was there at
Leicester.
At Leicester, when it was like, what was that, 4-1 or 3-0, something like that, 3-1.
Well, by the way, Flex, just before you carry on, Fabrizio Romano has literally just tweeted now. He has said, and he's obviously got the same thing maybe the Athletic have got. He has said Manchester United deny any idea or contact to replace Erik ten Hag with a new head coach. Club sources guarantee stories on new manager are, quote, categorically false.
Right, there you go. So they're saying that's not it. They're saying that's not. They're saying that's made up, and they're going strong on it. Maybe the Times did make it up.
Look,
maybe they did make it up.
It's easy, isn't it?
No, like you say, the tipping for gold, because you say that right now, it brings off the alarms, and of course, it sends everyone into panic. Hence why we're talking right now.
Yeah.
We wasn't going to be going live and talking about this, but the Times done an article. Then the Athletic come back, so we got to talk about this thing. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
And then again, you wait, you get more context, you see who speaks, and that's come from the club. So I'm not surprised to see that. And that may be true though. And this is what we need to be careful. That could well be true. That the Times made that up and that's false, and they're not thinking about sacking. But let him lose against Fulham and let him lose against Copenhagen and see if the club still think that. Because it doesn't matter what clubs say. It's a results business. Do you know what I mean? It's a results business. But it could be a refreshing thing. In the long run, if no matter how bad it gets, they stuck with Eric, which doesn't normally happen with managers, and they said, we have no clue what's going on with the takeover. We don't know who's going to own us. We don't know when it's gonna happen. No matter how bad it gets, let's stick to our promise of backing this manager, because as we can see, what's the point in resetting the clock? We don't have money to go and get another manager as well and pay Eric off.
Yeah, exactly.
We have to consider. So maybe Man United, it is quite also possible that they do say that and say, no, even if we do a Chelsea and finish 12th, we're not getting rid of him. We're not getting rid of him. Yeah, no matter what.
It might be the thing. It might be the thing, like you mentioned. Almost the irony is Manchester United are so broke that it actually saves him. You know what I mean? Because we can't afford to sack him. We can't afford to bring someone else in. So we've got to stick with it. In years gone by, when we did have the budget available, we had the credit available, maybe we would have twisted, but we can't do that now. And to be honest with you, I mentioned that earlier on in the show. Like, for me, when I see, like, United, they're interested in Zidane, you do look at that as a fan and just go, that's lazy. Because we've always... That came out when Ollie, got sacked. We're going after Zidane. Everyone's like, he ain't coming. He ain't coming. Yeah. Like, now, why? Why would Zinedine Zidane come to Man United? Why? I'm not getting him. Yeah. He's waiting for the French job. Everyone knows he's waiting for the French job. That's it. Yeah. And as far as maybe
what even look like as well, Zidane at Man United, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, do we get into the territory of what we got to get the best out of Casemiro and Varane? Who did that? Bring in Zidane. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And in a weird way, listen, I know I've been extremely negative over the last couple of days. I think a lot of us have. It's very difficult not to be. Even this Fulham game, I'm not very confident at all. Like, no spoilers, but put it this way, I don't think we're going to win. But the only thing that can fix this is results, man. Is wins. But in a weird way, though, it kind of isn't, because
it's manner
eventually,
of it.
It's the manner of it, because if we just win, we've done that before, and that's led us to here. We've done that this season.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's the reason why we're not like 15th or 18th or something like that. You know what I mean? Because we have still won half the games or whatever it was. Do you know what I mean? So there's a reason why we end up back here, because it's not sustainable. Like last minute wins, no style of play. It will get us through another dodgy period, maybe get us to the new year. But then if you go back to it again, when we get to January or February, we'll be doing this again.
Do you think though?
Do you know what I mean?
Do you think that even us having this conversation about, Ten Hag under pressure, replacements, all that kind of stuff, and like you've kept said, the biggest currency in football is wins, and that's what we need.
Yeah.
But if we do sack Eric Ten Hag, is that once again letting these players off the hook about they'll get it right under this next manager, or because they've done now what they did 18 months ago. They've done it literally again, and it's nearly exactly the same, isn't it? And it's nearly at the same time of the year as well. Ollie went middle of November, around that time, wasn't it? So it's around the same period of time again. And just even having this conversation, just even having this conversation, give them, once again, it proves that actually this whole bullshit, we go player power can't exist anymore. It does. It still does. It's happening right now in front of us.
Absolutely, it is happening right now, because it's the same story, it's the same theme. We're consistently seeing this same cycle where the players give up, the players start moaning, the players start saying this manager isn't it, players start questioning the characteristics of the manager, and then before you know it, the manager's gone, And also what's getting a bit worse now, though, is that now it's new players that are part of this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's new players that are part of this. Eric Ten Hag's brought in, how many times has he made? 8?
I think it's more than that. It's double figures, isn't it?
How many?
Double figures, really.
More?
Yeah.
Is it double figures?
Yeah.
I mean, even if you take out Sabitzer and Bedcourt,
I would think so. I mean, how many did we get?
Yeah.
How many did we get last time? We got, was it 6? And one of them was a loan into Brav, because that's 5. And then how many did we get this summer? It's close to double figures.
Hoyland, Amrabat, that's 4. So that's, what's that, 10? Yeah, so it's there or thereabouts, isn't it?
Yeah.
There or thereabouts. And that's just it with Man United right now. You have to look at that and say, okay, it is the same players throwing the manager under the bus, but also it's 10 other new players doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And I know, some of them haven't been there that long. Amrabat's only been there a couple of months. I'm not saying Amrabat has down twos and he's a disgrace. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they're part of the mix now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And also as well, this is what I was saying earlier on. This is why I say that I don't think we should get rid of him, because for me, it's patchwork again, and we'd be having the same conversation in 18 months' time about this, whoever this new manager would be. In the immediate future, if we did get rid of him and we brought someone else in, it might get better. I mean, there might be a new manager bounce. Some of the players come back from injury too, and suddenly we're like, see, it's all better. But we've done this story. We've played this record over and over and over again. And how many more times do we have to be blind to assume it's going to end differently? I think the biggest surprise with Ten Hag this time around, we were chatting before I went live, of that actually just how fast this drop-off's happened. It's been... Yeah. With Ollie, it was it was better. Then in the season before he got sacked, obviously we finished second Europa League, but there were still complaints during that season, wasn't there, of going, well, we're still miles behind City, style of play, football tactics or whatever. There were grumblings, weren't there? But realistically, about Ten Hag, not that there weren't grumblings, but it's just it just feels like this has just happened so fast. Of this, success at the end of last season, didn't win the FA Cup, which was frustrating, but it was okay, cool. And then just to fast forward to where we are now in a few months' time, it's what's happened? What has happened?
What's gone on? How's there been such a drop off so quickly?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where we are. And I don't know. I still stick by, which I hope I'm wrong, but I still stick by the fact that I just don't see Eric completely turning it around. I just don't see it.
Yesterday was damning. Yesterday was damning. In terms of when you look at body language, you look at when it can be a lonely place standing on the touchline, can't it? Because you're there by yourself and all that kind of stuff. But he looked isolated yesterday, and you felt that disconnect.
He looked a withdrawn, cut-out figure. And obviously he's going to back himself. He's going to say, I'm a fighter. I believe in myself 100%. And he should. Every manager has to. The minute he stops, he should just walk away. And so I don't think it's like that. I still do believe Eric believes he can do it. And do you know what part of me does think he can? A small part. But it's just because of this, the thing that is Man United. It isn't all just Eric's crap and I'm saying he's a rubbish manager and he's a fraud. I'm not on that. I'm more saying Man United has done what it's done to many before. And the thing that can be changed the quickest is the person who's with the players, every day on the training ground.
Yeah, patchwork.
Patchwork. Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly.
Yeah, and again, that's my worry, is that ultimately they'll opt for that because in the short term it might get better, and they might think, we'll salvage the season, and then Ineos will come in and we can fix it. Maybe there might even be those. I know that there's been, in all these reports backing from Sir Jim Ratcliffe, they like Ten Hag and all that kind of stuff. But then maybe that could pivot very quickly, and then they go, actually, maybe it would be good to get a fresh start. Maybe it would be good to get an interim in, and by the time everything's sorted, we can then get our guy in and do all that kind of stuff. Maybe they do that. I don't know, but
exactly.
It just I don't know. It just feels like, as you mentioned, it's end game territory now, which is really disappointing, really, really disappointing. And let's face it, if he does turn it around, he'd be the first out of the post-Ferguson block to be right on the edge and then properly turn it around. I know they say Ollie, he had those runs, he would go on a run and all that kind of stuff. But you felt a natural end to Ollie. You felt it, you know what I mean? Of like, it's a natural end.
Yeah, when it was really real.
Yeah.
This is like, I don't think it's untenable, it's going to go soon, sort of thing. And if you turned it around from here into something that gave us belief and we were challenging at the top of the league and showing being competitive, like Arsenal have done, like Liverpool have done, too early to say that about Spurs, but you know what I mean, if we turned it around to that extent where we really saw us start playing some really positive stuff, free-flowing football, exciting football, goals, expression, loads of players expressing themselves, I think if we did that within this period, then you'd be massively surprised.
Yeah.
To say the least.
And also, remember when we had those conversations about, we spoke to this person, and Eric's such a detailed guy that he's even about the training gear, it has to be this one, and if you're not in the group, you don't wear this, and these details and that kind of stuff. Like, even that feels a million years ago already.
Yeah, it does.
You know what I mean?
It does, and maybe he did all those things behind the scenes, and our players again threw the dummy out, toys out. Don't like it.
Yeah.
It's different at Man United.
Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked.
No, I wouldn't be shocked.
No, but there you go. Anyway, Flex, that's your therapy for the evening.
Pouring with rain. We're going to focus on getting back. Okay, it is absolutely terrible weather. If you're out on the roads, be careful, guys.
Yeah, there's storms. There's storms hitting the UK, isn't there? Was it Storm Kieran? Really, I think it's called Storm Kieran. So, if you are out and about, if you're on the, it's more in the south, I think, of England, on the south coast and stuff like that. So, if you are around Storm Kieran, be careful. Just if you're around the world and it's bad weather, just be careful. You know what I mean? Even if it's nice, be careful. Just in general, be careful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good advice.
There you go. Now, big up, Flex, and I'll speak to you in a bit.
All right, peace.
There you go. Flex calling in as well. Just Josh Media with a bit of helpful advice too. Careful on your scooters if you're like Josh, who's a giant man-child who scoots around. I've actually seen him fall off that scooter a couple of times, and I'll be honest with you, completely honest, 100%. And this is, I think, good advice for Josh. Be careful on your scooters, because when you do fall off, like I've seen Josh fall off, it is, absolutely hilarious. I've never laughed as much in seeing Josh fall off that scooter on some ice. I thought I was going to pass out. He flew off in front of me, and then I just see him skid and all this kind of stuff. It was my only regret involved in all of it is that we didn't catch it on camera. To be honest with you, it would have been brilliant. I think there's on one of the episodes of UV Raw, there's like an aftermath of it as well. It would have been sensational. But yeah, that is the latest from Fabrizio Romano. Again, if you are just joining us, so about that story about United looking at alternatives and new managers and all that kind of stuff. Manchester United deny any idea or contact to replace Erik ten Hag with the new head coach. Club sources guarantee stories on the new manager are categorically false as well. So that's the latest when it comes to those stories. Again, doesn't necessarily say it's not true or anything like that. Certainly it could be true as well. Some quotes coming out from Scott McTominay in the last few minutes. This is what happens when you go live, isn't it, as well? You can react to things in real time. So, Scott McTominay doing an interview, I guess, ahead of the game at the weekend. He has said, "Everyone knows we're not in our best period at the moment. We have to stick together. I think that's the most important thing. My thoughts are with the fans at the minute because we're not playing well, and it's difficult for them. They pay their hard-earned money every week to come and watch us, and the least we can do is play well and win football matches. I feel like for us in that dressing room, we have to stay tight and keep a clear head. We can't get too emotional with everything that surrounds us. We've got to block it all out. Obviously, the fans will hear the generic response of we've got to stick together, but it's true. Everyone who wants this football club to succeed, we have to pull together and try to be as good with each other as possible in the dressing room to get those results going our way. Now, it does appear that this has been done with an interview with MUTV, so again, it's not going to be salacious, it's not going to be bombshell stuff or anything like that, so it's going to be largely by the book in terms of got to stick together and what have you. I think for me too, it's got to the point now when I see those kind of interviews and I see those kind of quotes, you just go like, I wish I had what happened with my soundboard? I lost all my sounds. That's why I haven't been using it recently. It like logged me out and then logged back in and it was like, oh, you're back in my account and my sounds were gone. But I would click the Carl Pilkington bullshit button with all that because look, what's Scott McTominay going to say in an interview of MUTV? Yeah, the dressing room's a mess. Everyone hates each other. Some people don't like the manager. Some people are with Jadon. Raphael Varane's upset with the manager too. Like all this kind of stuff. He's not going to say that. It's going to be we have to stick together rubbish. But it's also as well, you know, sometimes people are better at putting sort of the lying face on than others. You know, not to say that Scott McTominay's a liar or anything like that, you know. But the point being is that it doesn't really do anything, you know. The real quotes that will matter will be in the press conference tomorrow, which I'll be live for, as to the questions that Erik ten Hag's getting, because obviously no punches will be pulled. It will be a lot of talk about him, his future, and look, the responses. I mean, we could do a mock press conference now. I could put my suit jacket on if I wanted to and shave my head. It would be an unbelievable end to the stream if I did. Could you imagine with that? 800 people watching, shave my head, put on a jacket. It would be incredible, absolutely incredible. Just do a mock press conference, just for the 5-second bit, and just for the sort of, you know, small pattering of laughter. It would be incredible. I mean, that is commitment to the bit. We could do the mock press conference now, and he'll say what he said the other day. I'm a fighter. I believe in myself. I mean, he said it even before the game. About he guarantees, I guarantee these players, I'm sure of it, it will come good. I'm absolutely sure of it. They will come good. How sure are you, Erik? Realistically, how sure are you that they're going to come good? Because if I was sure of it a few days ago, my sort of surety would be just a little bit down. Just a smidge down. It would be. I'd probably just take it down a smidge in terms of how sure I was about it as well. So, yeah, there you go. Speaking of tomorrow and speaking of, obviously, the weekend, we've got Fulham at the weekend, 12:30 kickoff. We're going to have a preview that's going to be coming out as well. Flex and a Fulham fan breaking down. It's tough doing previews with opposition fans at the moment because they just tell you that you're rubbish and you go, I know. Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate. I did the Sheffield United preview, and even they're more in the mud than us. You know what I mean? So I was like, well, you know, I could get that one, but yeah. So that preview is going to be coming out shortly. I don't actually know if it's coming out. Is it coming out today or tomorrow, Josh? You can let me know. Let me know. It's coming. It's coming. No. What's also coming are new episodes of UV Raw as well. There's plenty already loaded in. They're obviously exclusive to members only. A behind-the-scenes look at the day-to-day goings-on at United View. I was there the other day filming some more stuff of that. Owen and Josh play EAFC 24. First time I've ever picked it up. Beat Josh 5-1. You never lose it. Well, my fingers actually crack. A little bit. There you go. You never lose it. Yeah. These hands, greatness. 5-1. Old Trafford got footage of that. So that's going to be coming out soon. And as Josh says, tonight, 7 p.m, the preview will drop. And you can turn your attention away. Turn your focus to the weekend already. So that's going to be coming out tonight. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Click the notification bell. You'll be notified when that video gets set live and all that kind of stuff. And then, as I mentioned, tomorrow Morning show, Flex and myself will be live at 9 a.m. and then we'll be live for also the press conference too. And then it's match day and we do it all over again. Oh, we do it all over again. It's tremendous. Hassan says, love the UV Raw shows. They're amazing. They are amazing. They are amazing. And they're completely different to anything you would see on United View here. Anyway, if you like that kind of... The best kind of glimpse into it is, sometimes we'll do like a match day vlog and you see a bit more of like the personality, the people, and if you're interested in that kind of, you see the final product on the screen. If you're interested into how that all comes together, and usually it's by madness, and sometimes it's got nothing to do with anything. There is an episode in there, I don't know which number it is, which is literally me, Flex, and Josh. I start off eating some food, and it's a bit spicy. And then it gets into a whole argument about who's the fussier eater, and it lasts 25 minutes. I think it's golden. It's unbelievable. So there you go. Manj Kushner says, "Owen, how difficult was EAFC versus WWE in 2005?" Well, for me, EAFC it was easy. It wasn't too bad. 5-1. What's more difficult is me playing. What was I playing the other day? WWE 13. On my channel. That was a pain in the ass. And less said about that, the better. Realistically. I lost my head with that one. Anyway, guys, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right hand corner. Of course, if there's any more news or information or breaking news or whatever, I'll be live and we'll be covering it here at United View. Until then, I'll speak to you again very soon. I'm out of here. Peace.